Is it safe?
Is it legal?
Is it beyond belief?
Above reproach or below the radar?
Controversial?
From consumer fraud to scams and conspiracies.
Government and corporate corruption? Fact?
Or fiction?
You decide. Take the Litmus Test.
I'm going to introduce Roy B. Norton, Consul General of Canada at Detroit.
This is my fourth visit to the Upper Peninsula since I became Consul General of Canada to Michigan, Ohio, Indiana, and Kentucky in September of 2010. And my second to Sault Ste. Marie, Michigan. I've been once as well, somewhat earlier in my lifetime, when I was President and CEO of Ontario Exports Inc. to Sault Ste. Marie, Ontario. I spoke last in Sault Ste. Marie to the Chamber, Sioux Area Chamber, on the 1st of June of 2011. And since that time, Michigan-Canada trade has grown by another 13%, 2011 over 2010. And whereas I reported on that occasion in 2011, drawing upon 2010 statistics, that 1.4 million Canadians had visited Michigan in 2010. I can report now that in 2011, 2.4 million Canadians visited Michigan. We Canadians, it would seem, just can't get enough of pure Michigan. Now, while I'm on the subject, let me emphasize the importance of tourism as an economic development tool. Our Canadian dollar seems likely to continue to hover in the range of par with yours, the United States, for some time going forward. We hope that won't deter folks from visiting Canada. Bottom line, however, get used to seeing more of us and consider branding efforts that accentuate the multiple tourism attractions that the entire region offers without reference to which side of the border going forward. Now back to the trade and jobs relationship that we share, a very advantageous and prosperous one for both of us, but in a more local context. It remains the case that Canada and Michigan are one another's most important export destinations. In 2011, as in the year before, almost half of all Michigan's exports to the world were bought in Canada, more than to your next 16 international destinations put together. Fully 1/5 of everything grown or raised on Michigan farms is sold to Canada. And with the tremendous water resource that the Great Lakes constitute, planners should be thinking more and more about value-added agricultural processing across the region, again without reference to the international border. And in 2011, as in 2010, Michigan remained Canada's most important customer by a long shot. More important to us than any other U.S. state, more important to us, in fact, than any other country in the world, save and except the United States as a whole. When I speak of Michigan-Canada trade, you should take that to include trade-related jobs right here in the Upper Peninsula. In Chippewa County, 750 jobs depend on trade with Canada. Add 250 jobs right next door in Mackinac County, another 110 in Luce County. Exports to Canada from the 1st Congressional District reached $500 million in 2011, and another 770 jobs in Congressional District 1 are in Canadian-owned companies operating in the district. These are well-paying jobs, as trade-related jobs usually are. As most of you know, a couple years ago, President Obama declared a policy goal of doubling U.S. exports over a 5-year period. U.S. Commerce Department data shows that this goal is on track to being reached. Statistics bear out that growth in U.S. exports to Canada is exceeding growth in your exports to most other countries. And since we're already your most important export destination, the base on which that growth is being calculated is meaningfully high. In presentations that I've made around Michigan, I often point out that US and Canada make things together, rather more, in fact, than we export things to one another. Meaning that a very large proportion of the trade that we do with one another is in components. We share fully integrated production processes. Supply chain relationships define so much of manufacturing in both of our countries, which highlights the importance of reliable, updated infrastructure. Without it, getting goods back and forth will only become more difficult, and that's not what any of us should want. Without it, the potential for greater mutually advantageous economic integration simply cannot be achieved. Just days after my last visit to the Soo, one of the keynote speakers at the Detroit Regional Chamber's annual Mackinac Conference presented data highlighting industrial clusters that offer particular opportunity for Michigan. This was Dr. Michael Porter of Harvard Business School. Significantly, Porter cast his advice in regional terms, imploring businesses here to look first and foremost to the Canadian market for export opportunities, and he counseled them to open their eyes to the transportation and logistics opportunities that flow from Michigan's geographic connections to Canada. Let me assure you, we get this. Our government has evolved a national policy framework for Canadian gateways. The framework uses 5 policy lenses: align transportation systems with our international commerce strategy, focus on nationally significant volumes and values of trade, forward-looking action plans based on system analysis, address interconnected issues that directly impact system performance, and respect the federal role and foster effective partnerships. The investments that Canada has made over recent years in our gateways and trade corridors from a Michigan perspective will enhance your access not only to Canadian markets, to the market that Canada itself constitutes, but to the markets beyond this continent that Michigan appropriately covets. Respectively, and I think you probably know most of this, so I'll be mercifully brief, the Canadian gateways are called the Atlantic, the Continental, and the Asia Pacific. Each is predicated on the view that for every movement of goods, there are opportunities to add real value by providing logistics services such as warehousing, packaging, and distribution, as well as high-level value-added services such as access to credit, legal services, communications, and sales services. We believe there's opportunity for both Canada and Michigan to experience job growth in each of these component areas. It seems to me that the Greater Soo region has figured this out. Indeed, you're becoming a model of binational regional cooperation. As the Michigan State University study concluded, you're taking full advantage of the high potential international gateway opportunities inherent to this location and instrumental to the future development of trade. One device is the unique Two Nations, One City sister city agreement signed by Sault Ste. Marie, Ontario and Sault Ste. Marie, Michigan just this August. I can easily imagine having already risen in the Canadian Federation of Independent Business rankings for entrepreneurialism from 49th in Canada in 2011 to 23rd in 2012, that Sault Ste. Marie, Ontario will continue its path to greater business formation by virtue of this sister city arrangement. And what benefits one of the sister cities, I think we inherently know, inherently benefits the other as well. The agreement absolutely could serve as a model for other U.S.-Canadian jurisdictions joined by a bridge or a tunnel. As you know, and there are people here who can talk to this with much greater sophistication than I can, a multimodal logistics hub initiative is underway in the region, led by Soo Ontario EDC. Sault Ste. Marie, Michigan already has a designated foreign trade zone. Ontario, indeed my whole country, offers like programs. The example set by Lake Superior State University, Algoma University, and the Soo College of Applied Arts and Technology constitutes another model of excellent binational cooperation. As someone engaged full-time in promotion of greater and improved relations between our two countries, I can't think of a better outcome than students taking classes relevant to them at a university or college on whichever side of the border and paying no tuition penalty for doing so. Clearly, one of the predicates to this binational region maximizing opportunities linked to exports and logistics is for the international bridge to function at maximum efficiency. Today, it's the 9th busiest in Canada, border crossing. There were nearly 2 million crossings in 2011. The bridge is thought to carry 2% of all U.S.-Canada trade, meaning that by value, more than $10 billion in trade would have crossed it in 2011. Fully 3 years ago, the Government of Canada announced funding for the Canadian Plaza redevelopment project, funding to flow from the Gateways and Border Crossings Fund that I alluded to earlier. The project was estimated to cost $44.1 million. The project includes the expansion and redesign of the International Bridges Customs Plaza, as well as construction of new commercial and travelers examination facilities, a new inspection lane for buses, and new facilities to take advantage of the Nexus and FAST, free and secure trade, frequent traveler programs. It will reduce traffic congestion and improve border security. When completed, the new plaza will give the Canadian Border Services Agency, some of whose representatives I've noticed are here with us today, the facilities they need to keep Canadians safe and to keep travel and trade moving. Through this initiative, Canada will advance objectives of the Beyond the Border plan jointly issued by President Obama and Prime Minister Harper in December of last year. As you know, one of the principal goals of that very important initiative is to help trusted businesses and travelers move more efficiently across the border. Now, anyone who lives here knows that 3 years later, construction, however, has yet to begin. There's still significant challenges with acquisition of some of the properties necessary for the expansion of the plaza. The Canadian government remains committed to the project, to be sure, but as in every infrastructure project we embark upon, we must ensure that the principles of value for money are respected and that the project remains in the best interests of the Canadian taxpayers. To that end, we're hopeful that the St. Mary's River Corporation and property owners will come to agreement soon on the land acquisitions required to advance this project. I know that improvements are also being contemplated on the US side, to the tune, I believe, of something like $8 million. One story I saw dating from April of this year suggested that that cost is as yet unfunded.